Hello students and welcome to the lecture. So students, as we know that we are covering the National Disaster Management Authority. Alright, this is the topic on which we have been discussing, right? And within this topic, these all are the subtopics that we have scheduled for the discussion. Alright, and you can say this is the particular series on which we have been discussing, and basically these are the part of this series. Like the definition, okay, disasters happen over time, causes of disaster, impacts of disaster, elements of disaster management in India, establishment of the NDMA, objectives of the NDMA, functions of the NDMA, additional functions of the NDMA, State Disaster Management Authority, District Disaster Management Authority. Okay, so these are the topics that we have scheduled for the discussion. If we talk about the topics that we have covered so far, so basically we have done with the definition part, all right, and we have done with the disasters happened over time. Okay, these two topics we have completed so far. And if we talk about the topic on which we have been discussing, so basically we have been discussing on the causes of a disaster. All right, that is the topic on which we have been discussing. And if we talk about the topics that we are left with, so basically we are left with the impacts of a disaster, elements of disaster management, establishment of the NDMA, objectives of the NDMA, functions of the NDMA, additional functions of the NDMA, State Disaster Management Authority, and District Disaster Management Authority. All right. So this is the picture that we have created so far altogether. Basically, in this lecture, we will start from where we had left in the previous one. Okay. So basically, in the previous lecture, we were discussing upon the soil erosion, right? And we had discussed that this is the gradual removal of the topsoil layer. And this could be done because of the actions of water, actions of wind, and the main cause is the human activity. Right? And as we had discussed that this could lead us to the significant damage and problems from the environmental point of view, as well as agricultural point of view. Okay, from environmental and agricultural point of view, both of the areas. And the causes we have discussed. The first is the human land abuse. All right, and this is one of the major cause. Like this is poor land management practices, which could be done through the overgrazing of the field, through the deforestation, through the improper agricultural activities. Okay, so these are the you can say areas and things that basically impacts the human land abuse. And if we talk about the natural factors, this is through the heavy rainfall, flooding, and strong winds, which could accelerate the soil erosion. All right. And basically, we had discussed about the countermeasures so that we could mitigate the effect of the soil erosion by adopting the sustainable land management practices. Okay. Because in the previous lecture also I had told you, like we could not so much capable to maintain the natural factors. All right. However, by some means and methods, we could control it, the impact but still we are not so much capable to control it all. But in the human land abuse, we are entirely capable to control it. All right. So basically, whenever it comes to the soil erosion and the protection of it, or you can say the mitigation of it, then however, our focus is on the natural factors, but the more emphasis that we give on the human land abuse. Okay. And this is including like the counter plowing on the counter lines of the land to reduce runoff, terracing, creating step levels on slopes to reduce soil erosion. Then comes the reforestation, planting trees to stabilize the soil and prevent erosion. All right. So basically, this is what we had discussed in the previous lecture. I hope that you have revised the previous lecture in the well enough manner, because here I have just provided you an overview. I have not completely explained you the lecture as I explained it to you later or in the previous lecture. So that's why it is advisable for you to go and watch the previous lecture before you come for this lecture. All right. So basically in this lecture, we are going to talk about the deforestation. Because deforestation is one of the major causes for the environmental degradation as well as for the soil erosion. All right. So basically, if we talk about the simple terms that what we understand by the deforestation. So deforestation is generally a clearing of forest or cutting down of forest for some purposes, like the agriculture purpose, like the lodging, like the urban development. Okay. So these are some of the major reasons why we generally clear the forest. So if we talk about them, then first let us start with the agriculture. All right. Like the agriculture activities are one of the major reasons why the deforestation happened. All right. Now you will ask, like, how does the agriculture could affect the forestation? Okay. So basically, first of all, we should start with the shifting cultivation, that is also known as zooming cultivation. All right. So basically in India, the several part of India, there is still a practice that we call a zooming cultivation or shifting cultivation. All right. Basically during this, what a person do, if the person is to cultivate a land, all right, then first he will cut down the trees from the forest area. All right. And the area over which he cut down the trees, that will become a field, right? After this, he will use the cutted trees, burn them out, and the collected ashes will be spread over the soil. All right. And that will work as a fertilizer. Got it? So basically, how this, now you can get forestation effects. Okay, like the forests are cutting down. The second thing he will do is that he will not cultivate the land forever. That is the most important thing. He will not cultivate the land forever. Basically, he will cultivate the land for a several duration of time. Okay, and you can say for more than 2 and 3 years only. Once the fertility of soil will be degraded, he will left the land and will search new land. All right. So basically you can say the first land which he cultivated, that was land A. After 2 years, the soil fertility going down. So he left the land and he moved forward. He found another area, cut down the trees, okay, cleared the land, burn the trees, spread the ashes, start cultivation. Again, after 2 to 3 years, when the soil, you can say fertility degrades, he left B also and he moved to C. Cleared the land, burn the trees, spread the ashes, cultivated the land for 3 years, then left the land. Then go for the D. Again, same thing happened with the land of D. All right. So now you can say basically the same person has cultivated 4 lands A, B, C, D. He cut down the areas, cut down the trees from these areas, and basically left the areas beyond. So the areas or the fields he cultivated, basically he made them deforested. All right. And that was the main reason like why the British India banned this thing. Like during the Britishers banned the jhuming or shilting cultivation because they were using the forest resources for their own purposes, and the jhuming cultivators clearing the land. Because of this, their activities got impeded. Got it? Apart from the jhuming cultivation, the second reason is the normal farming also. Like now you will ask why normal farming? So basically you can say, suppose if there is any farmer, okay, who is cultivating land, all right, his land is touching the forest area. He having the 3 acres of land. So here what you are getting? You are getting that land measurement is fixed, 3 acres. It means the land is limited. When the land is limited, ultimately the crop he is growing, that will be limited also. Okay, he could not grow unlimited crops on the limited land, right? He could not grow unlimited crops on the limited land. Okay, so in order to increase the quantity of the crops, he requires to find more and more land. Got it? That's the thing. So what he will do, he will clear more and more land. And for this, he requires 2 options. First, either he could purchase a new land, but that will require the investment. Second, he could use that forest area that touches his field. Okay, he may acquire some place there, and the area which he will be cleared, that area will be merged into his field, right? So that's how the normal farming also affects the deforestation. Apart from this, not agriculture activities, but the primary activities in which there is a system of selling the forest resources. So generally, there are various persons who go to the forest, cut down the trees, costly trees like the trees of Chandan and all, and then they sell their woods in the market and earn their livelihood. All right. Even these practices lead us to the deforestation. So I hope the first thing got cleared in your mind, like how does the agriculture affects the deforestation. All right. The second thing is the logging. Okay. Logging is oftenly, you can say, refers to the settling down. All right. Like how does it works? So basically you can say, for example, there are many workers, there are many human beings, all right, who are living in the areas which are nearby the forest areas. Okay, so generally what they do, in order to build their households, okay, in order to build their shelters, they cut down the trees. Okay, then they make their homes. Apart from this, also they sometimes cut down the trees for making furniture, okay, and for using the woods for making the fire and all. All right, so logging activities also affecting the deforestation, or you can say forestation of the area. All right, and the major cause apart from these two is the urban development. Okay, because naturally if we track down the history, okay, naturally the human beings were the wild animals. We used to live in the forest. We were not so much civilized as we today. Okay, so we used to live in the forest areas, but as we evolved over a period of time, okay, we civilized over a period of time. So basically we started making our settlements. All right, and because we were you can say initially living in the forest, so the starting of making the settlements started from the clearing of forest. We cut down the trees, we cleared the areas, then we built our shelters, household and all. Okay, but that was with the limited population. Over a period of time, not only we evolved, we civilized, but also our population grows tremendously. Okay, because of this we required more and more land, because more the people, more the settlements were required. So because of this, we cleared more and more trees, we cut down more and more trees, all right, made more and more shelters, other things and all. And because of this, basically the forest area getting reduced. All right, and still today the population is rising a lot. So as the population is rising, ultimately the forest area is getting low and low. Why? Because the more and more humans are there, more and more land they will require. Okay, and this is oftenly termed as a disaster. Why it is called a disaster? Because disaster is not only a short-term event that will poses a threat towards the environment and the humans, but it could also be a long-term or the gradual disaster that is developing over a period of time, and it could impact the humans as well as the environment. And because agriculture, lodging, and urban development, these are not the natural causes, we are the one who are doing these things. So basically, we are the man. That's why it is regarded as a man-made disaster. Okay, man-made disaster with severe environmental and social impacts. Environmental, why? Because the forests were naturally provided. Okay, so they were important for the environment. Okay, and social, why? Because we as the humans living in the forest, and if we clearing the forest again and again, so ultimately our social life will be impacted. Apart from this, basically still the humans having two groups. Still the humans having two groups, modern group and primitive group. Okay, modern group is the group of the people who are living in the cities, who are living in the villages and all. Okay, and they are living in the settlements far from the forest areas. All right, primitive group is the group of the tribals, the natives, who are still living in the forest and are totally dependent upon the forest for their survival and livelihoods. All right, so because the primitive group is still attached with the forest, so they are the one who are preserving the forest a lot. All right, and because us, the modern humans, or you can say so-called modern humans, okay, who are living away from the forest areas, basically we are using the forest as for granted. That's why we are clearing down the forest more and more, and that will impact the social impacts and the social sphere of the those people who are living in the forest, or you can say the tribal peoples. Why? Because they are the one who are suffering because of our greedy intentions. Okay, because they are totally dependent upon the forest for their survival as well as their livelihoods. Okay, so what are these environmental and social impacts? Let us understand. First is extinction. Okay, extinction means loss of habitats leads to the extinction of many plant and animal species. So here what is the meaning of habitat? Come on, this is the question to all of you. What is the meaning of habitat? To answer this, I will give you the 30 seconds. All right, you are required to give the answer, and your time will start now. Just think about it. 10 seconds have been passed off, last 20s are remaining. Okay, last 10 seconds are remaining. Okay, the time's up. So basically we talk about the habitat. All right. So the habitat is basically a place where the plant or the animal species lives. All right. And you can say it is the hypothetical division, or you can say natural division also, but hypothetical. Why? Because if you look at your environments, if you look at your surroundings, you could not easily identify the boundaries of the habitats. Okay, we divide them on the basis of the characteristics. That's why I said these are the hypothetical, because they are not clearly visible. All right, but because they are provided by the natural, so that's why they are also called as natural habitats. So as per the natural habitats or the habitats, you can say these are the areas where the certain plant and animal species live. Like if we talk about humans live in a terrestrial place. So we have the terrestrial habitat. Okay. If we talk about fishes living in the water, they are having the marine or the freshwater habitats. Okay. So basically the habitats could also be, you can say, divided into the forest areas like tropical evergreen, deciduous, okay, mountain scrub. So many categories are there. All right. So because due to the deforestation, we are cutting down the trees more and more, and we are reducing the forests. So because of this, automatically the habitats were reducing, even getting extinct. Okay. And because of the reducing of the habitats, the species of many plant and animal species that are living over there, okay, these species were also getting extincted. These species were also getting extincted, right? So to counter this thing, basically we require to maintain the forest. But here we are not talking about the mitigation of the deforestation. We are talking about the causes and the impacts of the deforestation. So that's why you are just required to know the extinction. Like because of the deforestation, many habitats are on the loss, and because of this, many plant and animal species got extincted. All right. Second is climatic shifts. Okay, climatic shifts. Now, here I'm going to ask you a simple question. That is the question from geography, but it is equally relevant. What is the difference between the climate and the weather? This is the very easy question I would like to say. Okay, what is the difference between the climate and the weather? To answer this, you will have the 30 seconds. Please do not Google it, because this is a you can say most common and generic question. All right, so your time starts now. 10 seconds have been passed off. Last 20 are remaining. Last 10 seconds. Okay, time's up. So basically, if we talk about it, then the difference between the climate and the weather is simple. The weather is a long-term phenomena. Sorry, the weather is a short-term phenomena. Climate is a long-term phenomena. All right. Like you can say, suppose if I ask you, what is the, you can say weather right now. All right. And even if I ask you about the climatic condition, or you can say the environmental condition outside your home right now. So you will say, sir, it's on 10 a.m. it is shining. On 3 p.m. it is raining. Again in 4 p.m. it was normal. All right. So here what you are seeing that on the short period of span, or you can say during the shorter duration, the things are changing in the environment. Okay. At 10 a.m. that was shining. 3 p.m. that was raining. 4 p.m. again there was a normal situation. Okay. So whenever the environment change in the shorter duration, that is known as the weather. Right? Got it? Now, if I ask you about the climate, so suppose if you are living in the northern India, then what you will say, the climate is like a hot climate right now in the summers. Okay. If you are living in the South India, and if I will ask you like, how's the climate, then what you will answer? The climate is little bit moderate. Right? Similarly, if you are living in the Thar desert, Rajasthan, and then I ask you like, what is your climate? You will say the climate is hotter always. Okay. So what does it mean? It means that whenever the environmental condition stagnate or remains the same for a longer duration, then it is known as the climate. But when they are changing during the shorter duration, then it is known as weather. Okay. or in layman terms, you can say weather is the short-term changes in the environment. Climate is the long-term changes in the environment. All right. So here we are talking about climatic shift. So that's why we are not talking about the short-term phenomena of weather. Basically, we are talking about the climate of an area. Okay. So basically, the trees plays a crucial role in regulating the regulating the climate by absorbing the carbon dioxide. So trees plays a crucial role in regulating the climate of an area by absorbing the carbon dioxide. We know the carbon dioxide is responsible for the greenhouse effect or trapping the heat of the sun rays. And if the concentration of the carbon dioxide is high in the atmosphere or in the environment, basically the heat absorbing capacity will be higher and temperature will be high. All right. So basically this is important that trees should be there. Why? Because trees absorbs the carbon dioxide, releases the oxygen. Okay. So if they will absorb the carbon dioxide more and more, then automatically the greenhouse effect will be reduced. Deforestation disrupts this balance, contributing to climate change, because during the deforestation the trees get cut down, and when there is no trees, ultimately there will be a no absorption of the carbon dioxide. Okay. After this, desertification. Removal of the vegetation cover can lead to the degradation of fertile land into the deserts. All right. If the trees would not be there, the nutrition will be affected, and ultimately the soil will reduce its capacity to be fertilized. Population displacement. Deforestation can force indigenous and local communities to leave their homes and migrate to the other areas. Like as I have told you, if so-called modern humans will continue to cut down the trees more and more, so the primitive or the tribal peoples will lose their homes and they are required to migrate the area. All right. It means that basically we are stealing their homes. Okay. So students, basically in this lecture, we have finished till here. In the next lecture, we will continue from here. Till then, just revise the facts and figures that all we have discussed in this lecture. Be ready for the another lecture. With this note, let's end this lecture and thank you.